Okay, let's dive into this, because choosing an enterprise resource planning or ERP system is easily one of the most critical and honestly most stressful technology investments a business can make. I mean, whether you're running a fast-paced logistics firm out of Jebel Ali, managing a massive manufacturing plant in Sharjah, or operating a growing retail chain across Abu Dhabi, you absolutely need streamlined operations to grow. But as we look ahead to the highly competitive 2026 business landscape right here in the UAE, getting that investment right is literally more important than ever. So today, we're going to decode the true cost of upgrading your systems using real market insights and case studies from Facts ERP Software House.
It's the ultimate anxiety-inducing question, right? Every single UAE business owner, CFO, and IT manager inevitably asks this the exact second they realize they've outgrown their current software. You ask a vendor for a simple price, and suddenly you're navigating this crazy maze of quotes, licensing terms, and enough technical jargon to make your head spin. But getting a straight answer isn't actually impossible. You just need to understand the underlying architecture of how this pricing is built from the ground up.
So here's our quick roadmap for this explainer. 1. The big ERP question. 2. 3 ERP pricing models. 3. What drives your costs. 4. Beware of hidden costs. And 5. The one-time payment advantage.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the big ERP question and why the price tag isn't always what it seems.
Finding the real cost of your software is a pretty complex equation, mostly because it depends entirely on your unique operational variables. There is absolutely no one-size-fits-all in the ERP world. A vendor has to look at the number of concurrent users accessing the system. They need to know exactly which specific modules your business requires to function day to day. Then, they factor in your deployment model, how the software is actually hosted, along with your highly specific customization requirements and ongoing technical support needs. Actually, alter just one of these variables, like say adding 5 more users or a custom reporting feature, and your bottom line price shifts dramatically.
Moving right along to Section 2, navigating subscription, cloud, and one-time options.
First up, we've got subscription-based ERP. This model is incredibly common, especially with those massive international providers. You get put on a monthly or annual plan, typically ranging anywhere from 100 to 800 dirhams per user per month. Sounds super manageable for cash flow, right? Well, here is the major catch. While that upfront cost might appear incredibly low, the fees continue for the absolute lifetime of the software. You literally never stop paying. Plus, you still have completely separate, often hefty, upfront costs for the initial implementation and any advanced modules layered right on top of that monthly rental fee.
Let's put that abstract concept into perspective for a second. Look at this number, 72,000 dirhams. If you have a relatively modest 20-user company and you're paying an average of 300 dirhams per user per month, you are going to spend over 72,000 dirhams annually. That is the equivalent of leasing a high-end luxury car every single year. Except, you don't even get to own the car. You're simply paying for access to your own business data year after year with nothing tangible to show for it on your balance sheet.
And this logically leads us to our second category, cloud ERP solutions. Now, just to be clear, cloud software is quite often sold on a subscription, but it represents a specific technical setup. The software is hosted entirely online, giving your team fantastic remote accessibility whether they're in the office or on the road. They also boast a lower upfront physical investment since you don't need servers, and they include highly convenient automatic updates. However, businesses really need to tread cautiously here. While the deployment is sleek and modern, you are still heavily bound to recurring expenses. You've got to continually budget for both those access fees and the cloud storage costs, which, spoiler alert, will inevitably and rapidly rise as your company's data scales over the years.
Now, let's heavily contrast those first two options with the third model, the one-time license ERP. This completely shifts the financial paradigm for a growing business. Also known as perpetual licensing, this is where businesses pay a single time for the core software license and own it permanently. Instead of bleeding operating capital every single month, you make a solid, predictable initial investment. After that, you maintain only optional annual support agreements if you actively want them. It is a financial strategy geared entirely toward massive long-term savings and true asset ownership. Honestly, it offers incredible peace of mind to any CFO or business owner looking at a 5-year growth plan.
All right, Section 3, what actually drives your costs? The building blocks of an ERP system.
And this brilliantly illustrates what actually makes up the meat of an ERP implementation bill. ERP systems are highly modular. Think of them exactly like Lego building blocks. You have your foundational modules for financial accounting and inventory, then you snap on blocks for sales, distribution, HR, and payroll. On the complex end of the spectrum, you have manufacturing, project management, and retail POS. The key takeaway here is scale. A local trading business that only needs basic accounting and inventory tracking is going to pay vastly less than a massive manufacturing enterprise that requires complex supply chain routing, machinery tracking, and literally every single module to run their operation. You only pay for the specific functional blocks you actually need.
But, just having the blocks isn't enough. You've got to hire the architect and the builders to put them together. Implementation and customization are major, entirely unavoidable cost drivers. This represents the hidden labor of ERP. The software doesn't magically align with your specific business right out of the box. Tailoring the system to your unique industry processes, building out custom financial reports, programming third-party integrations, and designing complex workflow automation takes intensive, highly skilled labor. Then you have the physical system setup, migrating all your messy old data, training your staff to actually use the thing, and providing hands-on go-live support. These critical human services are almost always quoted completely separate from the software license itself. Then, you must decide where the software actually lives. Your deployment method, whether you choose cloud, on-premise, or a hybrid of the two, carries entirely different real-world infrastructure costs. It's a literal trade-off. Hosting it on-premise means building server racks in your IT closet, which means purchasing heavy hardware and employing dedicated IT staff to maintain it. The cloud shifts those exact costs up into the sky, trading physical servers for ongoing permanent hosting fees paid to a third-party data center.
Which brings us to Section 4. Beware of hidden costs. The iceberg of ERP expenses. When comparing multiple vendor quotes, it is incredibly easy to focus just on the initial top-line price and totally overlook what happens next. Think of your ERP quote exactly like an iceberg. The initial software license is just the tip visible above the water, but the hidden, recurring traps are lurking below the waterline, and they emerge fast. First, you have those baseline monthly subscriptions, but then your team grows, hitting you with aggressive user expansion fees. Your transaction data grows, triggering forced storage upgrades. You need to connect a new e-commerce app, which means suddenly paying new integration charges. Then come the mandatory system upgrade fees and the premium technical support costs. This cascade of expenses multiplies rapidly and can feel genuinely overwhelming after you've locked yourself into a long-term subscription contract.
So, the crucial point is this. True, effective strategic budgeting must look a decade into the future. Before you select a solution, you absolutely must calculate the total cost of ownership, or TCO, over 5 to 10 years. Seriously, stop and do the math. If you only evaluate the first-year investment, you are setting your business up for massive, compounding financial surprises down the line.
And that leads us to our final section, number 5, the one-time payment advantage, and how Fax ERP flips the script.
When you contrast these two financial models side by side, the difference in your long-term business strategy becomes glaringly obvious. Think of a subscription-based ERP like a leaky bucket. No matter how much revenue you pour into your business, there's a perpetual financial bleed dripping out the bottom to pay for software rent. A one-time licensed ERP, however, acts as a solid plug. It offers stable, highly predictable budgeting, it fundamentally stops the monthly bleeding, lowers your long-term operating costs, and allows you to actually build equity and a much stronger return on investment over time.
And this brings us to a really fascinating case study from our source material, Fax ERP. Unlike the myriad of subscription-only platforms heavily crowding the market today, Fax ERP serves as an excellent example of an enterprise-grade solution designed specifically for businesses in the UAE and GCC region. Built with over 2 decades of localized experience, what really makes this system notable for our explainer today is its core pricing model. It offers a one-time payment licensing option, effectively proving that businesses can avoid continuous monthly charges and successfully take back full financial control.
The core advantage of this perpetual model is how it handles growth. A system like Fax ERP empowers businesses to invest once. You get access to a complete, robust suite of business management modules, but you only activate and pay for the specific ones you need right now. Then you can scale naturally. For a growing UAE business, that means hiring 5 new warehouse staff next year doesn't suddenly trigger a massive penalty in new monthly software subscriptions. With thousands of successful regional implementations, this approach proves that organizations achieve much greater ownership and control, reaping the immense benefits of a powerful system for years without the constant anxiety of recurring fees. If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, remember this core lesson. Evaluate not only the initial investment, but also the long-term ownership cost before making a decision. Never make a strategic business decision based strictly on the day one price tag. You must look at the reality of the iceberg beneath the water.
Which leaves us with this final, genuinely provocative question for you to seriously consider. What is your true 10-year ERP cost? If you are currently evaluating software, take the time today to map out those hidden fees, look at your company's growth projections, and audit what that system will actually cost you a full decade from now. Because taking control of your total cost of ownership starts with answering that single question. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy planning!